Good.
Yes.
Just back from holiday, feeling very relaxed.
Did you have an actual family holiday?
Actual family, learnt their names again.
Fantastic.
Fell back in love.
Arranged them in order.
Arranged them in order, Von Trapp styly.
Yeah. Where did you go?
Crete.
Nice. We went to Crete a bit earlier. Noisy. Insects.
That's probably...
Cicadas.
Oh, I thought you were going to say you were because you were next to us.
Yeah,
like,
no, it was... how about you, Nick? Had a holiday?
I've left the country since 2016. To me, you two are both the liberal elite.
Yeah.
To get to swan around globalists, basically.
Whereas you're committed to the Brexit you voted for. Good for you, fella. Let's take a look at the front pages. The Daily Mail leads us off with "Cometh the hour, cometh the woman." Saucy, no PM since Maggie has faced a tougher in-tray than Liz Truss. Now she plans a shock-and-awe strategy on energy bills, tax and the NHS to stamp her mark on Britain. The Telegraph goes with energy bills to be frozen until the next election. That's slightly speculative as Truss outlines her vision for office with support for households lasting 2 years, and Truss urged to make Mordaunt Deputy Prime Minister. The Independent leads with Truss faces race against time. Desperate Britons plead for urgent help on rising bills, as the incoming PM promises energy package within days. The Guardian lead with Truss wins, but can she avert the looming crisis? As Liz Truss becomes the 4th PM in 6 years to race against time to tackle the cost of living emergency. The Financial Times leads with Truss in a £100 billion energy plan, and Centrica seeks billions in additional financing as collateral demands soar. The Daily Mirror goes with same old Tories. For 12 years, Conservative PMs have wrecked the economy, trashed our public services, left millions worse off, and now we've got another one. And the Daily Express leads with put faith in Truss to deliver for Britain as Liz Truss triumphs to become the new PM. And finally, the Daily Star with, well, that was a bizarre 1,139-day fever dream, wasn't it? Pictures of Boris Johnson's extraordinary gurning face around that headline. End of an era, marking the end of Boris Johnson as PM and our new PM, Liz Truss. Those were your front pages. Let's have a look and see what's inside them. So we start with Tuesday's Mail. We have a new Prime Minister, Nick.
Yeah, Liz Truss promises a bold plan to tackle the energy crisis for millions of Britons, and it's also saying no snap general election. Didn't particularly hear what exactly the details of the bold plan were, but she did say the election will be 2024, so that was notable. It's quite an interesting speech. It wasn't that interesting, but it was a bit wooden. She said, we're going to deliver, and deliver. I'm not sure what the need for those two re-deliveries is. The first one's presumably failed.
They leave a note.
They left a little note, yeah. And then she said, and we're going to deliver in 2024. It was a fourth deliver. And that's when people said, oh, OK, so she's not planning a snap election. And I thought the most interesting part to me was when she says she's going to govern as a Conservative. And this has driven Twitter mad, the idea that a Conservative leader would govern as a Conservative. No one's ever tried it, not for many, many years. Anyway.
Well, I think there's an argument to be made that that's true, actually, isn't it? I'm not sure that the last 2 years have been very Conservative.
They absolutely haven't. And we're in a position here where the Daily Mail said she made clear there'll be no turning away from the radical programme she's been pushing. So to be a Conservative, as leader of the Conservative Party, is radical, even in the Daily Mail now. And this is where we are. Kevin Maguire tweeted, like, oh, she's going to govern as a Conservative, not bringing the country together. Did you think she was going to say, like, I shall govern as Vladimir Lenin? What did he expect?
All this kind of bringing the country... You always like a campaign that was like Biden campaign, that he was going to bring the country together. And as soon as he's in office, he's standing there bathed in scarlet lights.
Calling them side fascists.
Fists in the air. The MAGA Republicans are lizards. But...
Yeah. I also noticed when she got up, she didn't shake Rishi's hand, which I thought was interesting. You know, when they walk up, he was right next to her. There was one seat in between them. Yeah. And she walked up, and I thought, surely shake their hand or something, some sort of Oscars kind of thing. But no. And yeah, those were my... I predicted it as well. I tweeted on 9th of July, so I was first to say Truss would win. Just a little pure self-promotion there.
I think we were saying that last October. But go ahead, Josh. What's your take?
Well, I think, it was closer than people thought.
Yes.
You know, 57% to 43%. which I think is quite interesting. 80,000 people in this country have chosen our leader.
For the second time.
Second time.
Yeah.
And obviously she's saying that she's not going to do the snap election. Which, you know, we've got 2 years. The interesting thing let's see if that goes in her favour. Obviously, Labour are well ahead in the polls at the moment.
I mean, I suppose the question is, if you're not going to have a snap election, an election, you have to govern according to the mandate that the last election was won with, right? I mean, that's the point. It's not a presidential system. It's obviously is an important part of people's decision to vote one way or the other. Do we have a strong leader? But they elect, technically speaking, on a mandate, on a manifesto.
I mean, really, her mandate, as such it is just to keep us all alive.
Yes.
For the next 2 years.
And not shivering too bad, you know.
Yeah, that's it. And it's not a good omen that wholesale gas prices went up 30% today.
Yeah.
So that's not a particularly a great sign. And the Chancellor in waiting, Kwasi Kwarteng, said that government borrow would be looser, but it's also going to remain responsible. So that's a slight contradiction there.
Well, it does seem, I think they've got to take a fairly deep dive into the structure of energy pricing, because it's not simply a question of, it's the war or it's supply chains. These companies are making absolutely vast profits at the moment.
Well, it's the legislation that places it on the gas as the highest thing, when actually we get a lot of energy from other sources.
Exactly.
So,
and they could get into that instead of just printing money, I think.
No, you wouldn't really call a snap election now if you're the Tories, would you? And it didn't go particularly well for Theresa May when she managed to almost lose to Corbyn, so, yeah.
That is true. Tuesday's Guardian is focusing on Priti Patel, who is familiar with the saying, you quit while you're ahead, Josh.
Yeah, well, the other way I always look at it is like every time I get a sense that a girlfriend is going to dump me, I got to get that dump in earlier.
Yeah.
So whatever. So yeah, she's
she
quit
was obviously out,
before
wasn't
she was going. Obviously, she's too loyal part of Boris Johnson's. I think
and not a particularly popular. Although it's hard to tell how popular she might have been.
Also, I didn't realise she'd been in, for Home Secretary for 3 years, which is like, it seems like a long time compared to everybody else. So she's gone. She's defending Rwanda right to the end as she goes. She's saying,
but it's unlikely to survive her, I think, isn't it?
No. I mean, there's the next story. You'll see what's happening in court.
Right.
But also the Refugees Minister, Richard Harrington, he's also quit, saying that his job is essentially complete because we don't have refugees anymore. We have illegal immigrants.
Yes. Yeah,
that's the official new policy.
He's overseeing that transition. Is he a lord anyway? Isn't he?
Yes, lord. But here they didn't give him. They didn't give him the lord in the Guardian. Gosh, Guardian.
How dare they?
What do you think of Priti's departure?
Well, like you say, she's jumped before she was pushed, like a migrant from a dinghy, perhaps. But you can't. Just thought I'd go with that. But I don't know how people are quite anti-Patel, aren't they? But you don't know how much it's her fault that you can't really get anything done in government these days. She had the ECHR to deal with. You know, I hope Sola Braverman's going to be good because I wanted her to win initially the leadership. So she's probably going to replace her. But will Braverman even be able to do anything? Because she recently had her own department go to that queer something or other that she didn't want them to go to, a woke meeting or something. So I just sometimes wonder if any of these people actually control their department.
Well, they call it the blob, don't they? And it's considered the great enemy of the Tory government is the blob. It's not the Labour Party. It's not the people in opposition. It's Whitehall. It's the civil service who are traditionally there from the days of Yes Minister and probably long before that are there to put the brakes on any kind of legislative programme that the government have, but particularly opposed. You know, have been swollen by the
You'd
Blair,
like to think that it's Yes Minister times because that lot seemed actually quite smart.
Yes.
And you seemed like they knew what they were doing, whereas you suspect it's more going to be sort of the Armando Iannucci people running around like headless chickens.
Yeah, I think that's
Think
probably
of it
true.
slightly. Yeah.
But yes, well, good luck, Ms. Braverman, if indeed it is you. On to Tuesday's Mirror now, and Rwanda may not be the idyllic utopian country we thought it was, Nick.
Well, yes, government ignored serious warnings over Rwanda's human rights record, court told. Of course, this is the first day of the week-long showdown in the High Court over the policy, this Rwanda thing that didn't even happen. But basically, they're trying to... It seems like the Foreign Office are trying to say, look, it was Boris's idea. He showed a particular interest in it, as did Patel, in pushing this policy, whereas they raised questions and said, look, Rwanda's not this great place. It's a one-party authoritarian state with extreme levels of surveillance, a bit like the UK under lockdown, you know what I mean? London has one of the highest levels of surveillance in the world, and we only have a choice between the fake Tories and Labour. So, yes, that's basically what it seems to me. They're trying to say, look, we never liked this Rwanda thing. It was always Boris and Patel.
Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah, well, look, when it happened, everyone was like, oh, look at all these photos and look how great it is over here and why is everyone kicking up such a fuss and the HRC and all whatever. And it turns out, actually, maybe Rwanda's not such a great place.
Well, I think
maybe
it was always intended to be a deterrent, really, wasn't it? But they couldn't they couldn't say, if you come here, you're only going to end up there, so don't bother.
But maybe too much of a deterrent.
Yeah.
It's the thing. They're going to a country where they torture and murder opponents or whatever.
Yeah.
Have history of that. It's not good.
There's always going to be a little bit of that. There's always going to be a little bit of that, I think, in the wherever you should.
But still not. I mean, still, there is no solution, and they're saying that still thousands came over today or something.
I was speaking to a friend who was speaking to some mercenaries who used to work for the British Army, and they said just dump them on a beach in France. You violate airspace, but once they're there, they're France's responsibility legally.
Again,
and
so
what are you going to do?
Sending them back to France. That's your.
That was their plan, not my plan. They said put them in a helicopter, put them there, and then it acts as a disincentive. What's your plan?
Well, it's interesting, Nick, because my mercenary friends, what they said to me.
Just intercept the boats halfway across, I mean, I think that's what they've got to start doing, isn't it?
Isn't that what they're already trying to do, though?
No, they don't intercept them at all, do they? They're going to bring them in. I would probably anchor a couple of disused ferries or something like that about halfway out into the channel and just intercept them and put them on there.
I don't know, what about Isle of Wight?
That probably is how the Isle of Wight started, wasn't it? If you dig down deep into the topsoil, you probably find that's rusted iron underneath. Some people have suggested that in seriousness, haven't they?
Yeah, so they're saying, like, do it to a British territory or a British island or something, Falkland Islands or whatever it is.
I can't imagine the Isle of Wight would be very happy about it. I mean, there are people there, turn it into a new Falklands. Tuesday's Financial Times. Over to South America, Josh.
Yeah, so Chile just had
Chile.
Chile. Do I have to say?
Chile.
Isn't that the American way?
That's how Christopher Hitchens used to pronounce it.
Okay.
This is one of his verbs.
Chile. With a bit of flair. Just had a referendum on a new constitution that they have rejected. And this article in the Financial Times is basically arguing that's a very sensible thing and a bit of a, really a sort of something that maybe the rest of the world should aim towards. They have a very sort of...
the rest of South America, anyway.
Well, he's saying the rest of the world really should list this. They've got a former student protest leader, far left president, and some of the stuff that was put into this it was kind of ridiculous about, like, that they guaranteed production of healthy food, the promotion of Chilean national cuisine,
kind
and whatever.
Of blue sky populist.
Yeah, it was just too much. It was the free broadband of Chile, essentially. And the population just went, and they had 86% people turned out to vote, which is a really high number, but 62% said no, they recognised that it just wasn't realistic.
An outlier, haven't they, in some ways? Always. They certainly have since Pinochet. And, of course, Pinochet is mainly discussed in this country and on sort of, liberal media in terms of helicopter...
disappearing people and torture.
And dropping people into the ocean. But there is another side to it, which is an extraordinary economic success story by comparison with most of Central America, South America. Not just under Pinochet, but just generally. They had the Chicago School of Economics had a significant influence there. What's his name? Milton Friedman. And they were a huge success story. And they have embraced free market economics and rejected the statism and the kind of the Galtieri and Perón and
they have progressed as a society. They have gay marriage, abortion rights, and whatever. So what this article is also saying is that now they got rejected. All the politicians, everyone said, OK, well, let's go back to the drawing board and let's see what we can do and make it a little bit. Maybe a bit more sensible, which is a good sign.
They clearly voted for the guy as well as rejecting his...
So some of the stuff, obviously, healthcare and whatnot, housing and all the things that need, but they obviously took it too far, and now they're going to pull back on it. That sounds like a good thing.
Seems good.
What's bizarre to me is the FT's framing of this. Chile's rejection of populism is an example for the world. It's not Trumpian populism, it's basically leftism. Even the New York Times have admitted it was a left-leaning
Well, I suppose the word populism...
Lefts can't be populist?
No, but they're framing, they're trying to... So this is weird phrasing, because when we think of populism, we think of Steve Bannon's economic nationalism, we think of a right-wing populism.
No, you do. That's why you've been hanging out with your mercenaries.
That's what it means to
you and your
people.
mercenaries.
You don't really hear... This is a Green New Deal type of thing. This is an ultra-leftist manifesto. It said that women have to hold at least 50% of positions in official institutions. At least 50%. So it's even been called a woke constitution by some people. So, and it had
it's utopian, I suppose, isn't it? In the sense that populism is simply pretending to people that things can be much better than they really can, and that it's...
And not realistic.
Yeah. unrealistic. That can be left-wing and right-wing,
Do
I
you
think.
really hear of left-wing populism, though? Does that, wouldn't
Yeah,
that... Do you? Okay,
Yeah.
fine.
But there are kinds of left-wing
it's
that aren't
misleading
populism
headline.
as well. I mean, I think that is also true. I don't think Russia never had what I would call populism. I don't think...
Yeah, I'm
the
not
Soviet
talking about
system
technical definitions about how it's usually used today, but okay.
Yeah, it's a sort of aesthetic, I think, as much as anything else. Over to Tuesday's Telegraph. One day there will be an app for literally everything, it seems. Nick, what have we got now?
This is a COVID app, COVID that detects virus in your
COVID,
voice.
they call it COVID in Chile. Chile.
I'm from the north, so this is a...
Chile COVID.
This is a microaggression. It detects the virus in your voice, and it's more accurate than lateral flow tests, along with most things. And the way it does it is if you're moaning and saying you can't come to work, you have COVID, or you at least are pretending you do. That's not really what it really does, guys. I was merely jesting. They record a load of respiratory sounds, and they use a voice analysis technique called Mel spectrogram. Sounds like a Simpsons character or something. And then they find out that it's actually using this technique. It can flag positive cases with 89% accuracy and negative cases.
And this is without it necessarily having heard your voice beforehand. It's not comparing your voice to what it's normally.
No, it's just comparing to a lot of samples it already has. It basically does, like you have to read a short sentence and it does your breathing. You breathe 3 to 5 times and whatever.
And this is not you trying to conceal the fact that you've got COVID. You yourself don't know.
No, but it's something about the pitch of your voice changing. Right. Or going up to a certain level. But it's interesting, there's a lot... I remember that dogs were supposedly the most accurate thing, 99%, but they have to really get up in your...
There are some extraordinary... I was talking to somebody about this online the other day and finding some examples of things that AI can do that surgeons had never been able to do before, like in terms of... it's already better than surgeons now at assessing the chance that you've got cancer, that sort of thing, from photographs, brain scans, that sort of thing. Among other things, I don't know if we've talked about this before, AI can tell your self-reported race from a chest X-ray, just from, like, the rib cage, which nobody had previously thought there was any difference in bone density.
It's not your race, but your self-reported race. It knows how you see yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, I just say that because some people think race is a social construct.
Yeah.
And
not
also, eyeballs can be gendered. And again, no human doctor has ever been able to detect any difference between a male and female eyeball, but AI can do this.
The only thing that worried me is that it says the new app could be used to very quickly screen people for the bug before they attend mass events such as concerts and big sports matches. That sentence brought to you by the Tony Blair Institute. They're always trying to bring back the passport. It's going to be an app. It's going to scan your voice now instead of whatever.
That's true. I'm
sure someone is going to be testing playing your thing on video or whatever clip. Let's see. How are you feeling?
What clip?
You feeling good? I'm just saying, right now, literally, someone could have this app and be testing to see how you are.
Get Dixon out of the studio. That's all for part one. Coming up, we've got the mapping out of the female brain. There's obviously a bit of a theme here. A feminist society is being purged, and how to develop strong relationships. Nick Dixon's favourite topic there. We'll see you in 2 minutes.
We are GB News.
And we'd like to say thank you
to each and every one of you
for helping our great nation
find its voice.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Across England, Scotland,
Wales and Northern Ireland. On TV,
on radio and online.
We're proud to be
the People's Channel, Britain's
news channel.
On the Mark Steyn Show, we cover the stories a lot of people are scared even to mention. The stuff that really matters with some of the world's biggest thinkers.
Now is his opportunity to kind of take the steering wheel of history.
Break away from the flop at 8 o'clock on GB News with the Mark Steyn Show.
Hello, I'm Esther McVeigh.
And I'm Philip Davis.
Whether you're watching or listening on TV, online or on radio, we handpick the latest stories, debates and expert opinions for your weekend. So whether that's politics, news or showbiz, we've got it covered.
Join us every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock on GB News.
Join my show, Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh, my goodness me.
And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News. Welcome back to Headliners with me, Simon Evans. And they're smart, they're funny, they'll tickle your tummy. It's Josh Howie and Nick Dixon. I do not write these links. So let's kick off part 2 with Tuesday's Guardian and this faint headline whiff of BDSM about it, Nick.
Oh, is this Judge grants Trump's request for special master to handle seized documents? It must be. Special master sounds a bit like a nickname Trump would give himself, actually. So this story sort of rumbles on. I'm getting a little bit bored of it. It's the weaponized FBI, the fake news. They've got Trump on this.
He's done something wrong.
I can't be too tired for this today. Yeah. The world's all perfect, Josh. The FBI's never weaponized, even though someone just had to resign, Timothy Thibault, for his involvement in the Hunter Biden laptop.
So he hasn't taken hundreds and hundreds of thousands of documents.
It's all perfect. We live in 1990.
Okay, These documents don't exist. They weren't in his house.
So Trump's been granted the request to have a special master. It's all about whether he had executive privilege to declassify the documents and so on. And some people are saying, well, this special master thing will just slow it down. The left are saying he'll still be indicted. Some people on Trump's side are saying, what do the DOJ have against this? Why can't they let him have this special master? And that's basically, it's this ongoing pointless legal case.
Sorry, can I step in? That's not what the story is particularly about. The whole special master is to come in to say, you're not allowed to look at these documents at the moment in other criminal investigations. So it's not about the specific thing of him taking illegally, they're saying, these documents away. They're saying that you're not allowed to look at those documents and see if they can, you did say that, you didn't say that. No, but that's what it says. This is what they're basically saying. So someone's going to be...
But Trump has asked for something and it has been broadcast.
And it has been broadcast, but it's not the big win as such.
No.
It doesn't, certainly not in this specific case.
How do you see this unfolding? Do you see this ending up in court for Trump?
Yeah, I think it's terrible. But I mean, the more and more that's come out about it, and then it turns out that his lawyers had lied. They said, oh, no, we've handed everything back. And then it turned out they'd actually 11,000 documents they hadn't handed back.
Why? I can't understand why they would keep them. It seems bizarre to me. It seems very strange. It's just setting yourself up for trouble, isn't it? I mean, you could photocopy them apart from anything else if you wanted, if you were that crazy.
Too lazy.
Did it bother you when Hillary destroyed a illegal home server?
No, because I love Hillary.
Did it bother you when Sandy Berger took out documents during the Clinton administration?
I don't know if she had 11,000 documents, did she?
Did it bother you when Bill Clinton lost the nuclear
documents?
codes for several months when he was...
All those things bother me, and this bothers me as well.
That's fine. That's fine if you're totally consistent. I wish we were in this consistent, rigorous world.
Nick, I'm a massively consistent person.
We're in a completely culture war weaponized world. I like your belief in the FBI. Apparently some of the agents are very good people, but at the top, most people admit it's completely...
the people that Trump himself
they arrive on local crime
scenes.
They arrive at local crime scenes and they antagonise the local police force.
This is FBI now. Get out of this. Yeah.
I've seen Mississippi's burning.
Over to Tuesday's Times now, and Liz Truss is getting a new cabinet, Josh.
Yeah, there's great offices of state set to contain no white men. Finally.
Yeah.
What we've all been going towards.
This is the agenda, the great replacement.
It has become real. Well, first of all, Truss, 47. I can't believe she's 47. I'm 46.
Yeah.
She seems like...
Younger than you?
No, a lot older.
She's sprightly, got a lot of hair.
Older than you,
Don't you think she... I mean, I know I'm bald and whatever, but she seems old.
You can't win this one, Josh.
Really? You think? I was shocked because she seems like a proper adult. I mean, if that means that's what I'm like.
Proper adult.
Yeah, that's terrifying.
So you're saying it in a nice way. You're saying she's a woman
she's a proper woman, yeah.
She doesn't still skateboard.
Do you still feel like a child?
Yes, I skateboard into the GBNews.
You're on a national news TV channel, Josh.
I know, but as a child, with the mentality of a child.
Anyway,
so she's 40. So we've got James Cleverly as Foreign Secretary.
Yep.
Kwasi Kwarteng as Business Secretary.
Although he is Eton educated.
He's going to be chancellor.
The last king has yet.
So is he going to be chancellor? Yes. And Suella Braverman, who we've already discussed.
Home Secretary.
Home Secretary, thank you. So that's going to be there. So, you know, look, the point of it is, let's just make sure that they're the best people for the job. Men, women, identifying sexuality, whatever it is, it doesn't matter as long as they're the best people for the job. Personally, I haven't heard of any of these people, so I'm not massively
You say it
bothered.
doesn't matter, but maybe you could say it matters, but in a good way. That would be
but I'm not going to go, suddenly this means that everything's hunky-dory with the world. But you know, but that's great that we live in a society where if she's hiring these people because they are the best, and I don't see why she wouldn't.
What do you think, Nick?
Well, I noted that Dr. Scholl on Twitter still managed to say it was racist, which was impressive. She said that Rishi would have won but for racism, which was hilarious. My only problem with this, I backed Suella from the start, so if they're great candidates, great. We want the best candidates. The only thing that I found strange is that this is the Conservative Party, and we've now bought into the premise of identity politics on all sides. Because they've sort of got that through in their negotiation. Because we never even question it. Whether, you know, I thought on sort of my side, we used to believe in merit and the best person for the job, and the sort of leftist side was, OK, it's all about identity. And I thought we'd rejected that. But what you'll notice now is everyone has actually bought into the idea. For example, Steve Baker couldn't really run because he was a white man that it was like, no, that won't wash. You know, you can back Suella. So that's my only problem. It's like, why have we all just accepted what happened to merit?
That lens. There's an interesting comment there's a chap called Sundar Katwala, who I do follow on Twitter. He's an intelligent and relatively balanced and calm voice, the director of British Future. He credits David Cameron with starting this process, and he says he sped something out which would have happened eventually, but wouldn't have happened at the pace it did without him deciding that was the future of his party.
Isn't it amazing that David Cameron might have actually achieved something?
No, but that's that was the future of his party. So what does that mean? Is he saying that the future of the Conservative Party is not merely like embracing the talent that wherever it comes from, but is actively promoting black and brown people ahead of white people in order to create a stronger...
I think they have a lot of...
Cameron explicitly talked about that. That was a big part of Cameron's programme. But anyway, it looks like you want to end this, so I'll get out of
Well, it's quite interesting, but we'll see how he goes. Anyway, on to Tuesday's Times, and a purge of feminists has occurred, not in the same cabinet. This is...
yes, Feminist Society purged by trans rights activists at Swansea University. So the student union... the student union are claiming it's all to do with a technicality relating to the election of its committee, but no one's really buying that. And Abby Claren, the outgoing president of the society, has said that this is punishment for the society openly supporting women's sex-based rights and recommending books such as Helen Joyce's book and Kathleen Stock's and all these people. And so it does sound very, very dodgy. It's this ideological capture by Stonewall again. And Claren said that I would have... She said she's graduating anyway, but I would have definitely felt coerced and threatened by the Students' Union, especially their so-called investigation. Yeah, so once again, it's the trans rights activists kicking out the
they've been
actual feminists
vilified online by these activists. They've had hateful posts sent to them, and they've got complaints. Supposedly, the Student Union is carrying out an investigation at the moment because of some complaints against the Feminist Society. Yeah. So it's all interlinked.
And this is the only women-only space, they were saying, with the only women-only society within the university.
I guess so, yeah. And basically, for recommending these books, Trans by Helen Joyce, which is an excellent book, and Kathleen Stock's book as well, but another great book. And it's amazing how... And those books are... They're good books, and they're relatively, they're balanced. They're not...
I read Stock's; it was excellent.
Yeah, well, I'd highly recommend. I always recommend Trans as well. Like, Helen Joyce from The Economist. They write things out very clearly. Simply, it's all evidence-based, and it's amazing that the hate that just comes from just recommending. Hey, why don't you check out these subjects and read about them?
I hope they stand their ground. Staying in the absurd world of academia now, from Tuesday's Mail, Josh.
Yes, so this is Professor Leach has apologised. He came after fire. He showed these sort of joke cartoons of a female brain, and he's defending. He said, "Oh, I also showed one of a male brain," and they're essentially like Homer Simpson's brain, sort of saying, "Oh, you like donuts." That he likes donuts, and because and supposedly a bunch of women, people who are working at this...
I think we can actually show...
Oh, we can show it, yeah. There we go, the female brain. And he showed it as a joke. He also showed slides of genuine brains from men and women.
Shoes should be further towards the back, if I understand.
Yeah, that's too much. And also it should be shaped like a shoe. And
male
but
brain. Okay.
this is amazing. So this has gone on since 2017. That's when he did it.
Yeah.
He apologised at the time,
Ugh.
and they're doing a report, and it's finally coming. How is this 5 years later still a
How
thing?
many man hours has it soaked
Well,
up?
women hours,
Yeah.
or whatever. Yeah. So it's great, but he was doing it to illustrate, and this is what I don't get: how there's no difference between men and male and female brains. So I don't understand
Well,
why.
I assume he probably showed those pictures to go, this is how we imagine male
Oh, I
and
see.
female
And then
brains
this
are.
is
But in
the
reality, if you look at them through an MRI scan, it's impossible to tell. I will then go, I bet there's an AI that can detect a difference. There are actually subtle differences, but nothing like as big as people think, possibly.
Yeah, I was confused because they showed home and then they just showed the real female brain. I was like, I didn't get it. But to answer your earlier point, yes, he did actually show the proper brains first, and then he showed these as a comic illustration.
Yeah.
But my favourite sentence from it is, Mr. Leach sparked a series of complaints from students, as well as Scottish feminists who said it went way past banter. What is the line of banter for Scottish feminists? Probably quite narrow, isn't it? I suspect.
They aren't playing into their own stereotypes there. On to Tuesday's Times once more. Something dodgy is emanating from sperm donors, Nick.
Yeah, sperm donors target women for sex. We've covered this type of thing before. These are the predatory men trawling Scottish sperm donor pages, never mind Scottish feminists. These are the Scottish sperm donor predators. And it's due to a shortage because there's certain requirements. Women have to be under 43, have a healthy BMI. There seems to be, in terms of NHS treatment, if they've had children before, they can get rejected for this treatment. So they go on the sperm bank black market. We've all been there. And it's not so much fun on the sperm black market, Simon, because you've got...
As it sounds.
You've got, as much as it sounds, you've got AI, not artificial, but it's artificial insemination, of course.
Yes.
Then you've got PI, which is no physical contact except for penetration at the end. Then you've got NI, which is basically a strange bloke in your house saying, let's have full sex.
What does the N stand for?
Which is natural insemination.
Oh, right. So PI is like he just penetrates right at the last minute?
Yes,
sort of thing.
not Magnum PI, but well, they wouldn't use... Anyway, we don't have to go into that, but that's a pun. But it escalates very quickly from AI to PI to NI is the issue that these women are saying. So, yes, it's...
So the bloke arrives at your house and you're kind of going, it's in there, the turkey based.
Yeah.
If you could just fill that up, and he goes, actually, I prefer to do it naturally.
They've said they've agreed to a syringe-based system, and he's going, I've got a different idea.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, exactly. If you want it, there's only one way
There's
this is
a
getting
puppy
it.
in the van.
Yeah, exactly. So this is quite interesting because that Scotland has this national shortage of donors. I think it's interesting that is it a coincidence that it happened to have escalated once Leo Kearse left Scotland? That seems to be when suddenly
there's
there's
a significant part of the supply side equation.
I think so.
I think that's probably libelous. Over to Tuesday's Guardian, and relationships are integral to all of us, it seems, not just sperm donors.
Yeah, so interaction is what shapes reality is the gist of this massive article. But talking about sort of subatomic particles to human beings, and this idea that quantum theory is never been disproved in any way, but the idea is that, let's just sum it up, is it does a lot of if you put a beam here, it's going to go there, but we don't see necessarily which hole it would go through and all this stuff. And what they're actually saying is that it's the interaction that's the most important thing, and that's the universal truth.
One of the funny things about quantum mechanics, as far as I understand it, it's been around for a very long time. Before the end of the 19th century, they were starting to get to grips with it. And it does have some absurd implications, which we haven't really, the famous Schrodinger's cat and all the rest of it. But it's only quite recently that it's starting to have, real, serious, real-world implications. Like there's quantum computing now, which is actually sort of using this kind of stuff. So is this kind of reflecting the fact that we're starting to understand... Hard to say, really.
Well, I think it's more of a philosophical thing, and they're sort of relating it to Plato and whatever, and it's sort of... essentially, at the end of the article, it goes into, how... Basically, it sort of says, give peace a chance. Yeah. It's the gist of it.
Well, that was the bit that got to me. I was reading this thinking, OK, it's ostensibly a science article, but it sounded like it was pushing relativism. Then I looked at the end, and it's just an all-out... cry for
Come
globalism.
on, guys.
Wait, he says we shouldn't prioritise individual countries over the common good. That's a catastrophic error. So I looked up the guy. He'd retweeted Greta. He called Liz Truss a fool. I started to piece together. It's a bit of Guardian propaganda masquerading as science, but it's actually about
that is a classic
again.
Guardian playbook, isn't it?
That's how they get you.
9 paragraphs. You go, this is hard physics. And therefore,
bring back the rejoin.
Give up your car and eat the bug. That's all for part part 2. Coming up, we've got more on the rings of power, the renaissance of Brendan Fraser, that's good news, and psychopathic AI. Lots of AI this night. Thank you for keeping it with GB News so far. We've got one more section. See you in 2 minutes. We are GB News.
And we'd like to say thank you
To each and every one of you.
For helping our great nation.
Find its voice.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Across England, Scotland,
Wales and Northern Ireland. On TV.
on radio and online.
We're proud to be
The People's Channel, Britain's
news channel.
On the Mark Steyn Show, we cover the stories a lot of people are scared even to mention. The stuff that really matters with some of the world's biggest thinkers.
Now is his opportunity to kind of take the steering wheel of history.
Break away from the flock at 8 o'clock on GB News with the Mark Steyn Show.
Hello, I'm Esther McVeigh.
And I'm Philip Davis.
Whether you're watching or listening on TV, online or on radio, we handpick the latest stories, debates and expert opinions for your weekend. So whether that's politics, news or showbiz, we've got it covered.
Join us every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock on GB News.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh my goodness, brilliant.
And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News. Hello, I'm Simon Evans. Welcome back to Headliners. I'm joined by Josh Howie and Nick Dixon. So let us crack on. We begin with Tuesday's Guardian and this ongoing assessment of Amazon's new Lord of the Rings show, Nick.
Yes, I seem to talk about this every night now. The backlash to rule them all, every controversy about the Rings of Power so far, and this is the Guardian with a very, very biased take on the controversy. So firstly, they claim that the bad reviews are a noisy minority, but then they admit that there's ugly review bombing going on. So they can't seem to decide, like, is this a minor thing from a minority, or is it actually the majority of people trying to leave reviews?
Essentially, Amazon have employed people to try and weed out the bad faith.
Well, they're doing a 72-hour blockage.
72-hour block, and then they're going through all of them, and they're going, well, they've got to let through some bad reviews, otherwise, obviously, people will just go, well, this is nonsense, you know.
And the Guardian makes all these disingenuous claims, like it says here, that people don't want different race characters, and it's exactly what happened when Star Wars and House of Dragon introduced non-white characters. Of course, Lando Calrissian was played by Billy D. Williams, James Earl Jones did the voice. There was a black stormtrooper, no one had a problem with that except China. But the thing is, and then they mentioned a couple of other controversies that are going on. The thing is with this, I get in trouble for this probably, but Tolkien saw his works as histories. And of course, he's an English person writing about England and Europe at a certain time. So, of course, if you change the race of the characters, you are making a statement, you're making a deliberate change. And then I think it's reasonable to say, well, why? And then you go, well, because they believe in certain politics, diversity is a good in and of itself.
It's just jarring, isn't it? He based his sagas, his mythologies on Norse and Icelandic sagas and so on. He was interested initially in philology, right? The study of the emergence of people through their language. And initially, I believe, was mainly creating worlds in which he could, explore the use of language in that kind of context. It's a pre-modern existence, so they weren't racially mixed societies. We now have racially mixed societies because we live in a modern world, and you could have a post-modern world. You could have a post-apocalyptic world that looked like Middle-earth, after a nuclear Armageddon or whatever, in which the races have been flung around. But it is I know people go, oh, it's fine to believe in elves and dwarfs, but you can't accept that there's a black hobbit. But they are.
Disingenuous,
It is disingenuous. Having said all of which, I watched the first episode, and Lenny Henry was far from the worst thing about it. In fact, he was fine. I kind of coped with it pretty well. I thought that the dialogue was incredibly stilted and leaden and heavy and sententious. You know, it was. Those were the problems.
The thing, when they spend so much money, £500 million, I think. And
well, $1 billion actually.
Yeah, and if they can't get the writing right, it's mad. It's
and that's one thing that American TV shows have been really good at over the years. They usually have a massive writing room. We always notice it, you know, when you compare an American sitcom to a British sitcom, right? The writing is just...
The density.
Yeah, exactly.
I deliberately didn't watch it and watched Fellowship of the Ring again because it's a timeless, beautiful, ancient world, the West in 2001.
It is absolutely...
Watch it with your mercenary friends.
Tuesday's Guardian. And don't you just love it when comedians steal the limelight, Josh?
Yes, so anybody who was online yesterday just saw this whole thing about Joe Lycett, how he went on the new Laura Kuenssberg's show on BBC, and essentially where they've basically stolen this idea. They've gone, oh, let's get some comics on to talk about the newspapers. That's basically what it is. And they got Joe on, and he just took the mickey. Yeah, that's his job, really. Yeah, fair enough. But everybody's either kicked off. Everyone's either called him like a genius, or they've totally kicked off and said this is disgusting. Where the reality is, it's slightly lazy comedy. And also, it was a bit of a jibe towards right-wing comedy. Oh, look at me, I'm right-wing, which isn't actually what right-wing comics do.
That's the one thing that actually annoyed me. He was like, as if right-wing comics go, oh, I love Liz Truss. Well, most right-wing comics I know go, I'm sorry, I thought we had a Conservative government with an 80-seat majority. Why are we not seeing any significant progress?
Yes, that's true. He was a sort of centre-right at best, a very, very moderate white. Yeah, I don't understand all this. Joe seems like a nice guy when I met him, and he simply did a very sort of Route 1 satire. It's a bit like when I say, like, as a feminist, because everyone knows I can't stand women and stuff. It's like, it's just a really what he kept saying as a right-wing comedian. It's perfectly reasonable satire. Yeah. Now, I think Laura Kuenssberg was a bit maybe upset because she's like, I've got this very serious show, it's my new show, and he's there to mock it, which is what comedians do. But I think it's got to be... I mean, the Daily Mail putting it on their front page saying, now BBC comic mocks Liz Truss is a bit silly.
That was nonsense. In fact, nobody was annoyed that he'd mocked Liz Truss. They felt... I mean, I've written a piece for Spiked about this, and I did say, I think that's exactly wrong, their headline. The point is that they were annoyed that he was mocking the whole format of the show. And if you're invited onto a show... the presumption is that you have accepted that the show is a legitimate entity. Yeah. You know, and if you come onto it and just kind of ridicule it and undermine it. Having said all of which, I don't blame Joe Lycett either, because he is essentially, like all of us are, he has an act, he has a shtick, and if you put him into a certain place, that's what he'll do. I blame whoever booked him. If that's not what they wanted, they shouldn't have booked him.
Yeah, but also call him a BBC comic. Now BBC comic. Yeah. Well, he's not in the sense that she's a BBC Prime Minister. Someone who's on the show. It's ridiculous.
More comedians now, this time from Tuesday's Independent, Nick.
Yeah, F your hostage video. Chris Rock issues sweary response to Will Smith's filmed apology. So Will Smith did that bizarre sort of bunker apology, and it seems like Chris Rock has been finally speaking his mind on this. The other day he was talking to Chappelle, and he said that it hurt a lot, the slap, and he said it was over a BS joke, and he said that Will Smith, after crafting this perfect persona over decades, revealed that he was as ugly as the rest of us, which I think is correct. I think, you know, he revealed sort of human weakness there, and he's not who he said he was. And Chris Rock, he definitely seems to be still angry about it and gradually talking about it more and more. I don't know if it's...
This is in the context of the live show, was it, that he did?
Yeah, he did it.
Yeah. Brilliant, amazing show. Chris Rock and Dave
Chappelle. Yeah, two of them, but it's like, I think it's 170 quid or something.
Wow, that's huge. Well, I mean, fair play. I think he's probably right, isn't he? There is something weird about Will Smith, isn't it? I think everyone feels that, and it's his marriage. I think.
Well, that's it. Have you seen the videos of him and Jada, him and his wife? And then there's one of her filming him. Yeah. And he's trying to make breakfast. He's like, look, can you just not do this? He's like, no, we're going to talk about it. And you're like, whoa, this is scary.
Well, I've worked with Will. He was very nice, but we all suspect Jada is a monster. Do we not? I mean, that thing about entanglements and the narcissism.
No, I like the I've worked with Will bit, that's it.
Well, OK. And he also has a thing where he was planning a great birthday for her, and she said that it was narcissistic of Will to do it. Have you seen that clip? He planned an elaborate birthday party, and he was still in the wrong somehow. Yeah.
Bizarre. Tuesday's Mail once more. Heartwarming comeback from one of the 90s biggest movie stars.
Yeah, Brendan Fraser from The Mummy. He's just had a new film out called The Whale at the Venice Film Festival.
Yeah.
It had a 6-minute standing ovation towards him. I saw the clip today. I didn't before coming in and seeing the story. And it's genuinely emotional. Here's a guy, he's put on a lot of weight over the last sort of 10, 15 years.
He's also put on, he's got like prosthetic weight in order to play
On
this
top
part.
of this, yeah.
But he has actually put on weight.
has put on
Because
weight.
He used to be pretty buff, sort of movie star guy, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that was his George of the Jungle and whatever.
Yeah.
But he was also he's a great actor. He was in Gods and Monsters, which is an amazing film.
He was in an extraordinary single episode of Scrubs. I don't know if you ever saw
Yeah,
that.
so he's in Scrubs. He's in a Doom Patrol, which I don't know if anybody's watched. Is really very clever sort of DC series. So
it sounds like his disappearance was partly due to some sexual assault. And this is really upsetting when you read about it.
Yeah.
It was this from the
Some of the Golden
Hollywood
Globes.
Foreign Press Association, former president. Basically
Philip Burke in
groped
2003,
him,
yeah.
and he spoke out and was subsequently blacklisted.
And he actually got this guy to write him a letter of apology, but the letter of apology said, no, you've made it all up, but I'm sorry. It was a kind of gaslighting fake letter. So, yeah, I do feel a lot of sympathy for that. Twitter being what it is, he had this amazing standing ovation, then someone underneath had said, well, it's a bit much. A woman this bloated wouldn't get this response, and said it wouldn't happen to a woman. Then someone else replied and said, hang on, he's a victim of sexual assault, which is true. But it's like, can we just see him as a person who's, you know, he's come back and
he's come back. And everyone loves a comeback, don't they? It doesn't matter. I mean, that is great.
It's genuinely emotional watching his response because he doesn't actually think it's for him at the beginning. And then they get up, and then he does get up, and then he just doesn't really know how to handle it. And
Well, I haven't seen the film, but apparently this guy's a 600-pound man, right, who is almost sort of disabled by his own weight. And that's quite a brave thing to play in your comeback movie as well, I guess, isn't it? When you've been an action hero in a sort of kiddie movie.
People are saying you're overweight already. I'll show you overweight.
The Independent...
Remember Mickey Rourke when he came back as a wrestler, you know.
That's a great film. But The Independent called his grossly manipulative, his performance.
Oh, well.
Good old, The
What, that
Independent.
he was manipulating our emotions? Or?
I guess so. It's sort of...
Like an actor.
Yeah. Well, it's sort of...
Maybe they just meant he's gross.
It's sort of fat face is the
I
idea,
guess.
you know, whatever,
Oh, God.
No, we'll see.
Over to Tuesday's Times once more, and as if tequila couldn't be more off-putting. Nick, what have they done with it?
Well, it's a tag that sends wearer straight from tequila to the slammer. That's a kind of play on words. Not mine, but the Times.
No, I like that.
And it's basically a new tag, in case you worried things weren't authoritarian enough, it's a new tag that it tells you exactly how much you've drank and when. And this is for people who have been convicted for alcohol-related offences.
Right.
Yeah, and I mean, that's basically
So more AI that can detect things that humans can't.
Well, it's really interesting. It's sort of you sweat alcohol as soon as you drink it within half an hour.
Right.
So it can pick up. If you had the tequila shot, this person did, half an hour later, you wear this thing on your ankle.
Right.
And it detects your sweat.
Yeah.
And it says, oh, you've basically had a shot of something.
And then
so
that
on.
goes back-
And
and
then
that
it will go
breaks
back to
your
the thing.
probation
Yeah.
or
So it's called the sobriety tag.
It's not a drink drive thing, though. This is if you've had a criminal offence, which they think you're a bit of a handful when you...
Exactly. Because I think 20% of ex... cons or whatever offenders, have like a drinking problem or whatever.
That's absolutely likely to. And would imagine they probably sweat all sorts of other nasties as well, don't they?
Yeah, there was one part that was sinister to me. I just wanted to go over. It says an alcoholic who was forced to wear one said he missed it after it was removed because he found himself too easily reaching for the bottle. Now nobody was monitoring him, so he's immediately kind of it's like venom. He's become kind of used to the.
You should get married to Jada Pinkett Smith. She'll sort him out.
But that'd be quite a handy thing to know how drunk you were, though. I have wondered about that before, because, I mean, like the drink driving legislation in this country, obviously I would never take a risk. But the drink driving legislation almost seems deliberately designed in order to lure you over the line. Do you know what I mean? There is no, like, amount of drink that they say this is what it's equivalent to. It's just 80 milligrams per 100 milligrams. Yeah, I mean, but you can probably get away with a tiny amount, but you have no way of knowing. It would be quite useful, I think, if you could. Do you not think?
Well, no.
For me, it's tag, Simon. Is that what you're saying?
I want to
No,
be tagged.
for me, it's like I just don't ever drink it the tiniest bit because I'm a proper lightweight, and it definitely has an impact.
Yeah, no, I can believe that, actually.
Yeah. As you can hear from the way I'm slurring my words.
Tuesday's Daily Star. Maybe AI is a mistake after all, Josh, though.
Why would they do this? Japanese scientists have created something called Norman, and they've shown him a diet of image captions from a terrible Reddit group called the Nick Dixon
I knew you were going to say
Come on, Wayne. Come on, I got to do it.
I was going to say the same joke
Yeah, all right,
myself.
fine, fair enough. And it's created a psychopathic digital monster, and they showed Norman a bunch of random ink blot images, you know, the whole Rorschach test.
Yeah.
And whereas the normal AI would see umbrellas or wedding cakes, Norman only saw executions and car crashes.
Oh, OK. So they haven't actually... It's not actually trying to kill people, but it just...
No, but they basically trained a proper psychopath.
Yeah, they're making a sort of nurture versus over nature thing. It says the culprit is often not the algorithm itself, but the bias data that was fed into it.
Yeah.
So there you go. It's also an interesting question, do psychopaths exist? If you've ever read that book, The Psychopath Test.
Yeah.
It's not... No, one thing interesting about it is if you give a psychopath apparently an electric shock, they won't respond. The normal person will anticipate the next one and worry about it, but psychopaths won't.
Ah, OK.
Why are you prodding me? Why are you prodding me under the table with your foot?
There are two interesting books. That one's a good one. The other one is The Psychopath, is the idea that corporations are intended to be psychopaths, that they are created that way, that they have all the same incentive structures that psychopaths. That's
why Leo's thriving here.
But this feels like a little bit, it feels like half the story. There have been plenty of stories with AI where it can develop a dark side without you wanting it to. You know what I mean? It learns too much pattern recognition. And that can be very problematic in society.
Yeah, they had another AI that was meant to find criminals and would identify more black people than it should have for any reason.
Absolutely, it just kind of goes, oh, this is the prison population, therefore you probably, you know, would look like one of those, or you know, it's.
Yeah,
it's going to be an extraordinarily treacherous path. The next one we have is Tuesday's Guardian. What is doom scrolling? Nick, I think, as if I didn't know.
Yes, I'm sure you know, but doom scrolling linked to poor physical and mental health, and this is obviously where you just scroll through endless awful story. It's basically our job. Is the problem. I mean, I've realised I can't actually be happy in this job, not just because of working with Josh, but because of the endless, horrible stories you have to read. And that's basically what this... But people are doing it by choice is the only difference here.
Yeah.
And it says about 27.3% of those surveyed reported moderately problematic levels of news consumption. So how much level of news is problematic? I'm on way more than that. My percentage is well into the red. So it's quite worrying. I mean, if I wouldn't have to do it if I didn't have to, because it's just bad for you.
What do you scroll? Do you scroll in bed at night with the phone?
Oh yeah. But I have to. For this, we have to look at all this cost of living, war, strikes. Then I do another podcast where I have to look at the general decline of the West every day.
Well, you're making it about you, but I want to talk about our viewers.
Why?
Because they're the ones who are watching news,
us,
and we have, we've got people who are speaking to us, but they all seem very nice. This here says
they're not scrolling us though.
But we're the
they're not scrolling, but it's saying
we're giving
people.
the truth.
But it's saying it's not just about scrolling on like online stuff. It's actually about watching of CNN and all this.
I think there is something. I think there is something about scrolling. The phone, the thumbing the screen, because you just think just below, just out of sight, there'll be the thing that stops this scroll.
That's what they think.
You know what I mean? Yeah, you're hoping for the. Oh, everything's going to be fine. I found one the other night which proved to me that David Bowie is still alive, for instance, and I literally could go back to bed after that and go to sleep after that.
Yeah.
It's an amazing clip. I don't know if you ever saw it.
No.
It was on Sky News on the day after he died. There was a man called Nick Stephen who was supposedly an old associate of Bowie from the early days, and it was clearly Bowie in a wig. It really is amazingly...
Andy Kaufman style.
Yeah.
Faked his own death. Okay.
Oh, God, that's a relief.
You got your white pill by going far enough.
Last story we have... We've lost it, folks. I'm so sorry. Thank you very much for your contributions, Nick, Josh.
Oh.
We are going to leave the folks to scroll now, and that's all we have time for tonight. Further bad news is available on your phone screen. Headliners will be back tomorrow with me at 11, where I'll be joined by Josh Howie and Simon Fanshawe. In the meantime, a great pleasure. Thank you very much. Good night.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
On
On Mark Dolan tonight, we have a simple plan, which is to inform, stimulate, and entertain in equal measure. It's all about getting your opinions on the national television airwaves. I love my viewer emails, mark@gbnews.uk. So do join me from 9 p.m. to midnight every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for big guests, big opinions, and a big presenter. 6'5", don't you know? See you then on GB News.
We are GB News. And we'd like to say thank you
To each and every one of you.
for helping our great nation.
Find its voice.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Across England,
Scotland,
Wales and Northern Ireland. On TV.
on radio,
And online.
we're proud to be
the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
On the Mark Steyn Show, we cover the stories a lot of people are scared even to mention. The stuff that really matters with some of the world's biggest thinkers.
Now is his opportunity to kind of take the steering wheel of history.
Break away from the flop at 8 o'clock on GB News with the Mark Steyn Show.
Hello, I'm Esther McVeigh.
And I'm Philip Davis.
Whether you're watching or listening on TV, online or on radio, we handpick the latest stories, debates and expert opinions for your weekend. So whether that's politics, news or showbiz, we've got it covered.
Join us every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock on GB News.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that